Hey everybody. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in a lot of other cities here. But going through the neighborhoods here, I've seen most recently, as a result of some of the rioting that's happened as a result of the uh, the death of George Floyd and many other deaths, Dontre Hamilton here in Wisconsin, most recent that I can think of, in Milwaukee specifically. But I've seen a lot of stores that were boarded up, fearing that there'd be damage to their properties. And we're in July now, July 1st today actually, and the riots were weeks ago, and some stores still are boarded up. Most of the ones that are still boarded up are cell phone stores, and now I've been seeing those specifically. And I just passed one that had a big spray painted sign over boarded up windows that said "We are open." And I've passed by these for the last, like I said, last month or so, give or take. And I've always talked to my wife and said, I don't feel comfortable shopping in a store that has boarded up windows and boarded up doors and everything. No more than I feel comfortable in a store that has like bulletproof glass all over everything. Because I'm like, well, you're protecting you, but what does that? Am I unsafe now? Am I in danger now? And while the boarded up windows and doors don't necessarily make me feel like I'm in danger, it feels a certain type of way. And if you don't care enough about the neighborhoods that you operate in, you board up your stores because you feel like everybody is a threat to you, or there's an immediate threat to you, but you still want people to come in and spend their money. You want them to risk, potentially coming into contact with whatever that threat that has you still with boarded up windows and doors. So, you like us enough to do business with us, so to speak. I use the term "do business with" loosely because I don't recall seeing, a Boost Mobile library. I don't recall seeing a Cricket, park around here. So it bugs me because these places, you're all boarded up because you want to protect your investment, and you protect your cell phones and your cell phone accessories, your cases and all that, your screen protectors. But you kind of don't invest, in my opinion, you don't invest back in those communities, and you don't care what it looks like to have, all these residential houses, and now you have this big, cell phone store that's completely boarded up. That paints a picture. So if I'm not from here and I go through your neighborhood and I see all these stores that are boarded up, that paints a picture of your neighborhood. It makes it feel like, oh man, this must not be a safe area to be. I don't want to be down here. And to me, as much as it shouldn't, those images kind of feed into the perceptions that people have of these neighborhoods. And unfortunately, these cell phone stores that are boarded up are primarily in communities filled with people that look like me. So on top of the perceptions that are already there about people that look like me, now you have these stores that are still boarded up and they have spray painted. It's not even a sign, it's just spray painted that says "We are open." And I know that it may or may not be the managers and the day-to-day workers that are in charge of putting up the plywoods and everything that boards up the windows and the doors, but you gotta, they're the faces because they look like the people in these communities. I think the cell phone stores in the inner cities, we'll say, are some of the few companies that operate in the inner city in the inner city where the employees there look like the people who are in that community. It's one of the few places you still have, your big box stores, your Targets and stuff like that. If they are there, you'll get more of a chance for people to be employed there who look like you. But it bugs me because I'm sure they don't want to go to a store if I was an employee, I wouldn't want to go to a store every day that's completely boarded up. It's got to be dark in there. Even if you have your lights, it's an artificial light. When you have all this sunlight when they open the door, and then you got to walk into this boarded up store with all this bulletproof glass on everything. And I'm like, at some point, you either have to decide that it's not worth it because they have to have all these security measures, or you have to talk about how can I invest in the community so that the community will invest back in me by, not letting these things happen. I worked installing cameras for a gas station chain here in Wisconsin for a little while, and there was a guy who operated a gas station that I was working at, and he said that it's not the greatest area, but he said he never had any problems because he was always cordial and he was always positive with the people in that community. He said his belief was that the places that get robbed or vandalized or things like that is because of how their reactions or how their interactions with the community was. And he stated that if you have good interactions with the people that are around you, if you treat the customers like human beings, if you invest back in the community, if you make yourself a part of the fabric of that community, it's less likely that things will happen to your store in terms of, robberies or vandalization. And if those things do happen, you're more likely to find out who did it, or you're more likely to have people on your side to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I think that in terms of the stores that have the boarded up windows and signs, I don't think they've made that investment, as I said earlier. You come and you know people want to buy cell phones. Like, you can't even find, there are very few banking institutions down in the area that I'm in right now. I'm working in the city here. Very few banking institutions. You have a couple ATMs that have like really high, ATM fees. There's very few places for me to build economically. There are not a lot of jobs in the city here. There's not a lot of banking institutions here in the city. There's very few higher education places in the city here. You still have maybe one or two libraries. A couple got shut down a couple years ago, but there's no growth. And when I see boarded up windows and doors, it doesn't help, because it adds to that picture of that you're unsafe and that, you better protect yourself. And I don't like that. So, it bugs me to go past that a month later. If you thought that, all these people would break your windows and steal your cell phones and cell phone cases or whatever might be in the register, that's one thing. But this is far too long. And it's easy for me to say I don't have a store here, but I would put myself, and this is 100% me being honest, I would put myself on the side of, in order to make sure my community has the best representation, even from my store's perspective, I will have my store be a better reflection and representation of the community that I do business in than to have it boarded up. I would want people to see my store as like, oh, this is a nice, clean store in our neighborhood. It makes our neighborhood look nicer. They do good business. We patronize them, and they are a part of the fabric of this community. And when I see those boarded up signs, it further illustrates to me that we are not a part of your community. We are in your community. We are fleecing your community, is my opinion. So it just bugs me, because this doesn't help. And it to me, it helps more than it would help more to take the risk of losing X amount of dollars to not have everything all boarded up. Remind you that there's still a lot of bulletproof glass in there and everything. All the employees are behind all these plexiglass shields and all that. So on top of that, then you have the stores boarded up. So for aesthetics alone, it would do better for the neighborhoods to have these stores open and look better, so it doesn't look like a ghost town or a bunch of dead mini malls. And it just bugs me, because the community is better than what it looks like because of a bunch of different circumstances. There are not failing people here. There are not people who have given up hope. There are not people here who can't achieve anything. There are not people here who are not worth anything. And I think it paints that picture, and I think that it adds to the perception of people who are not from these communities that, oh, look at how they have their stores, and oh, look at how they have their houses. They must not care about anything. They must not value anything, or look at how they treat themselves and view themselves. And I just don't like all that talk. And to me, the boarded up stores add to the negativity of that talk and those perceptions that aren't accurate and that are unfortunately rehashed over and over and over. That's my thoughts, man.